It's time to hear directly from fellow military families, both active duty and veteran, on exactly how they built or are currently building their real estate portfolios. What I'm about to show you is my class, the PCS Portfolio, where I bring in actual military MLS members to talk about the quantity of houses that they've accumulated, the type of landlordship they're holding, property managers versus self-managing, and what kind of properties they're into: single family, multi-unit, Airbnb, long-term rentals. This is the class for you if you are interested in building a real estate portfolio alongside your military life or using the VA loan benefit. I'm Kimber Hill. This is my Military Spouse Lifestyle Show, where I cover topics like investing in real estate, remote and virtual careers for military spouses, and military benefits. Let's dive in right now. Okay, this is a live class that I just hosted. And the beauty of the live classes is that we get to take Q&A questions as they're coming in. And so we do have a really great Q&A session at the end of the class. But during the class, we're going to talk about, first of all, how does the VA loan work in order to provision you to collect multiple properties? And then we're going to talk about how to actually do this. We're going through real life scenarios with people who have done this over the course of the last 15 years and are actively still acquiring properties too. So I'm going to hit play, let you watch the class, and I'll be back at the end to give you next steps. Welcome. This is going to be such a fun event today. I'm excited. This is a new topic that we're bringing to the military MLS community. And before we get going, I want to share with you who's hosting and exactly why this matters and exactly how you can benefit from today's event. So we are the Military MLS. Our website is themilitarymls.us. This is version 1 of our web platform. You can expect an improved experience of that web platform in 2026. But we are a community, and we offer concierge style services built by military families and veterans for military families. This is a platform where you get to get real guidance from real military families who are doing things that you want to do in real estate. So whether it's PCS moves, investing in real estate, or making the most of the VA loan benefit, which I think our community in general is lacking education on. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you agree with that. Making sure that you're able to use those benefits to the maximized ability for you. So let me ask you really quick in the chat, who here in the chat wishes that they would have started using the VA loan benefit sooner? If that is the case, let me see a $sign in the chat. You can throw a $sign in the chat. I want to see if you are thinking you wish you would have done this sooner. So if you're like most members in our community, you've probably been thinking about this for a while, doing some Googling, doing some researching, but maybe you've even talked to different people, maybe lenders, maybe real estate agents, but you're still not quite sure what your options are and what's best for your family's timeline and financial goals. And I just want to say that's where the Military MLS concierge team comes in. It is a completely no cost, no obligation, free one-on-one strategy sessions where you get to talk to fellow military connected investors about what the reality of your situation is and get some targeted advice and timeline planning for what you could potentially do for yourself. One of the things that the concierge team also does is help you connect with trusted military affiliated VA loan expert lenders and real estate agents who really do understand the lifestyle, maybe have actually lived it themselves, one of which you may hear from today, and are vetted experts in the VA loan benefit, which is sort of a complicated product, but it's also your cheat code to executing on the strategy and plan that you have. So what I want to share with you is if you do attend a one-on-one strategy call with our PCS concierge team, we do give you a Stanley tumbler. And several of you in the chat can probably attest to that because I know we have several people on the call today who have been through our strategy calls. All right, I wanted to kick things off today. We'll see if you guys are a shy group or if you're brave enough to come on camera or at least on audio and talk to us. I wanted to kick off with a quick icebreaker. I would love to see if anyone wants to put their hand up and talk about how many properties you currently own and what you've done with them or have owned. Like maybe you've owned 3 total, you sold 2, maybe you've only owned 1, maybe you've never owned 1. Who wants to participate in our icebreaker today? You can just put your hand up or come off mute. And this is how you put your hand up. All right. Are we feeling shy? I feel like people are feeling shy. That's okay. Francis. Oh, David, you can go first.
I'm not really shy, but I only have 1 property right now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm gonna convince my wife. It's coming.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, she's just nervous. That's one thing probably you could alert people is if your spouse is not on board, then you probably don't want to move forward without them.
No, you don't. It is a 2-person decision. And Frances and her husband Lonnie are here today to talk to us about their investments together. So maybe that will be inspiring for your wife, David, to see a power couple husband and wife team who are really killing it. Jasmine, there you are. Hey.
Hi, I'm working. Sorry, I look kind of crusty. I'm a newlywed military spouse. We've been married for 2.5 months. So I'm here because we're renting, and we couldn't do base housing because there was nothing available for the timeline that we needed. And so my husband was like, he's the active duty, and he's like, we should look into buying a house so we can like start investing and stuff. So I am the gatherer of information, and that is why I'm here. We don't own property yet, but we're hoping to use the VA to be able to do that.
So you said newlywed, and when did you get married?
In July.
Congratulations.
Thank you. We got married in Vegas.
Oh, I love that. I'm sure it was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
Well, would love to see you in a strategy call. We can talk about your duty station and go through the home buying process, since it sounds like you might not have done that yet. Is that right?
So we met with a lender and a real estate agent when I visited before I moved here, because he was at this duty station before we got married. And so they were kind of talking to us about different things. We met with like 2 different sets of lenders, but I just wasn't really feeling that the information was very holistic. Okay. So we didn't move forward. So we basically are starting from scratch. So open to learn and meet and all the things.
I think that you're in the right place, and we are certainly we have the right VA loan experts on the call for you today. Yeah, I'm excited for you. We'll see. Connect after this call too and see what you learned and if you have more questions. I would say that this is the VA loan benefit in general for everybody here. You do need a holistic team and a holistic approach, someone who understands from beginning to end, not only for what's happening right now and this purchase, like your immediate future, but someone who can partner with you and think 4 years from now at your next move, 8 years from now at the next move, right? So those are things that we need to be cognizant of as you think about this benefit and how to use it. Rebecca.
Hello.
Hey.
My husband and I just bought our first house. It's been almost a year now. So we've been running for the past, I think 8 years. My husband's been in the military. We didn't know kind of where we were going to be as far as like our moves and things like that. But we have a special needs daughter, and it's been kind of keeping us in one location. So we finally decided to buy, but it's kind of something that we wish that we started sooner, for sure.
And hopefully you're going to do it again in the future. Is that your approach? Want to collect more properties?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, I understand your situation. Thanks for sharing your family service and your circumstances with everybody here. I think it's inspiring for everyone to see, we're all in the same boat. Kareen.
Hey, how are you doing? Hey, Kimba. Nice seeing you again.
Good to see you here, girl. Glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
Kareen, if you guys don't know her, she's a huge advocate in the veteran and milspouse space. So we're very blessed to have her here today.
I am a milspouse of 22 years. We've bought I think 5 homes. We've rented, we've sold. This was supposed to be our last house before we ETS, but we're PCS single oconus, so that's life. However, I am willing to ETS before my husband, so
Mhm.
kind of like set up shop back in Florida with me and the kids while he goes do his military thing overseas.
Mhm.
So yeah, if you guys would like to connect, I'm here for you as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kareen, and thank you for sharing your journey and what's going on with your family. Okay, so let's get into why we're here. Today is about how to grow your PCS portfolio. So in previous classes, we focused all on different topics, like we've had several classes specifically on the VA loan boot camp. We've had Military Home Buying 101, which is where we go through the 7 steps of buying a home as a military member. But today, we are focusing on the concept of multiple property acquisition. Maybe not all at the same time, but we're going to be talking to some incredible guests today who are first going to tell you how is it possible with the VA loan benefit, and then we're going to talk to Manny and Francis and Lonnie, who are really great examples of people who are doing it and making it work for their family. And we're very hopeful that you guys are going to take away so much value from this. Okay, Trident Home Loans is going to come on, and that's going to be Ashley Barber. She's going to talk to us all about the parameters of the VA loan benefit that make the strategy of multiple property acquisition and building what we call the PCS portfolio actually attainable. So let's go ahead and bring Ashley on. Ashley, can I introduce you and get you on screen? There you are.
Yep.
All right. Tell us a little bit about you and the company of Trident Home Loans.
Sure. I am Ashley Barber. I'm our Director of Operations and a loan originator at Trident Home Loans. Next month is my 13-year work anniversary here.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Trident is a veteran-owned and operated mortgage company. The owners, Marty Medby and Tim Moore, decided they were tired of mortgage companies taking advantage of veterans whenever it came to purchasing homes. So they decided to start their own company. They make less money on each deal, and by doing that, we're able to offer lower interest rates and also lender credits to help cover closing costs. We're a small shop based out of Pensacola, Florida. We do business nationwide, so we're licensed in 57 states and including Washington, D.C. We have a dedicated staff that will work on your files, so you're never just calling into a call center. You have specific people that you'll talk to the whole time. And then whenever clients close a loan with us, they really do become part of our Trident family.
Yeah. And I'll share right now, I'm currently doing a refinance with Trident and I'm really excited about it. That's a completely different topic, which we might lightly touch on later today, but they're giving me a totally free refinance, even though my original loan was not with them. Unfortunately, I did not know about Trident until the last 6 months, actually. It was a happy accident that we met, but they've been a killer resource for military MLS members. You're going to learn why. And I think the bottom line here is that the owners of Trident do not need your money, okay? They do not need to make a profit off of you. So that is why on average at Trident, you are going to see about a full 1/4 of a point interest rate percentage less than any competitor. And that does not include a rate buy down. You're not buying down rates when you work with them. They just offer lower rates because they don't need to profit off of you. It is a veteran-owned company. So these people are here because they want to support you. And right now, I want to say if you want to meet Ashley or somebody on her team privately, maybe you're getting closer to a purchase than I may realize, I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and book a strategy call because Ashley does make herself available for strategy calls if that's what you're looking for. So let me go ahead and put that link in the chat for you. And remember, those of you who come to our strategy calls do get sent a Stanley tumbler just as a bonus gift from our family to your family. I also want to say about Trident, I don't know if we're going to talk about it later or not, but I do want to make sure we touch on the fact that they give you a $2,000 credit towards around a $2,000 credit towards your closing costs. So when you use the VA loan and when you use it with any lender, it doesn't matter who it is. Typically, there is an admin fee of around $1,300. My last admin fee was $1,800. Trident doesn't charge you that because they don't need your money. You know, they don't need to profit off of you in that capacity. There's also usually an appraisal. The cheapest appraisal I've ever had was $400, but on average appraisals run between $600 to $800. And Trident also credits you that. There's no catch. There are no gimmicks. That means you are already walking to the closing table when you work with Trident with about a $2,000 credit that other lenders are typically going to charge you. Further, you're walking into that with also a lower interest rate. So I encourage you guys to meet with them if you're thinking about doing something in the near future. So thank you, Cassie, for dropping the link. I know that there are a lot of people in this call who are already working with Trident. They're very well known in the military community. My team's husbands and connections and friends all knew about Trident before I knew about them. So if you guys have worked with Trident before, feel free to drop it in the chat. Like, for example, I see we have a member today, Nikki. Hey, good to see you. She says, I'm working with Lisa from Trident. Kimber referred us to them, and I couldn't ask for a more knowledgeable, understanding, and helpful person to guide us on our home buying journey. This will be our second purchase, but we sold our first house. Thank you, guys. Okay, let's go ahead and keep going. So can we just take a moment and review our poll results before we dive deeper today? Thank you. All right, this is how many of you in the room have used the VA loan more than once. We've got about 17% have never used it. 21% have used it once. And 61% have used it more than 2 times. So that's awesome. And then we've got 47% of you are buying and selling. 24% and 29% are practitioners or lenders. So thank you guys for being here today. And then how long until your next PCS? We've got 32% of you who are PCSing in less than 6 months, 44% in 1 year, and 24% in 2 years. Oh, here's a good one. Do you currently have a VA loan? And if so, what's your rate? We've got 32% over 6% and 29% under 6%. So those of you who are over 32%, this is where you want to be considering a refinance. We're not really talking about that today, but if you need to talk about a refi, you can hop into a strategy call with the military MLS concierge team. All right, so moving into what we want to teach you today, I want to start with the concept of PCS as an opportunity for your family. So to set the tone for PCS Portfolio, let's talk about why you might actually want to grow a real estate portfolio and how you can build wealth for your family using this strategy. So I think the reality is, and I had a call with 1-800-PAC-RAT earlier this morning, and we were talking about how often the average family moves. And the average consumer family is moving anywhere from every 7 to 14 years. But the average military family is moving anywhere from every 18 months to 36 months. So we are moving a lot more often than our civilian counterparts. So this is a really good opportunity though, because if you are able to invest in real estate at each PCS, then you are able to start building a small pocket of equity for your family at each PCS. And so what we want to think about is the concept of holding those properties, potentially renting them out to pay the mortgage on the property and allow that property to continue to grow in value. So what I want to say about what's unique about being active duty or about potentially being a veteran who's living in an active duty town is that you have a strong real estate market. Military bases create constant demand for housing. They make attractive rental markets. Also, what you need to know is if you become a landlord and you become someone who's renting out their properties, most of your expenses are actually tax write-offs. So that includes HOA dues, insurance, I want to say interest paid on your mortgage, maintenance, improvements, anything that you do to that property is something you can file on your taxes as a tax write-off. So it's really never too late for you to start, and it's never too late for you to begin learning about it. So let's go ahead and bring Ashley into the conversation here. What are some of the advantages of the VA loan, Ashley, that allows families to buy at multiple duty stations and do this over and over again?
I mean, definitely the biggest one is the 0% down. So you don't have to put money down on a VA loan, especially if it's your first time using it. You don't, I wouldn't personally. The second, third, maybe fourth time you try to use it, you do have a higher funding fee associated with it unless you're exempt. So that's pretty much the only time that I would suggest putting money down. But other than that, the 0% down is huge. There's also no mortgage insurance associated with it, whether it be private mortgage insurance or not. It is a government-backed loan, so the VA covers it. And then it is reusable. So I've talked to a lot of different people that thought you could only have one VA loan at a time or one VA loan ever. And that is just not true. As long as you have entitlement left, you can keep using your VA.
Okay, so did everybody get that and hear that? Because that's the most common myth about the VA loan. How many times can you use it? As many times as it's feasible for you and your family. So there are parameters, though, to keep in mind when we're using the VA loan to grow the portfolio. We have to be aware of our parameters. And one of those important ones is the occupancy intent and requirement. Ashley, can you walk us through occupancy intent?
Yes. So in order to get a VA loan, it does have to be your primary residence. So it doesn't necessarily have to be the veteran's primary residence, but it does have to be their family's primary residence. So it has to be at the time of purchase. They expect you to move in within 60 days and occupy for at least 12 months. If you do happen to get orders, let's say you've only been in the house for 2 months and you get orders, that does qualify as a move where you can convert your primary into an investment at that point.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So what about entitlement? We already have people in the chat asking about entitlement. Let's go ahead and take a moment and help everybody understand what it is and how it supports buying multiple properties.
So the entitlement is the amount of benefit that the VA gives you, basically. So the VA guarantees the first 25% of your loan. That is your entitlement amount, basically. You can purchase multiple properties as long as you have $1 amount of entitlement remaining. The amount of entitlement that is there is going to depend on your location and how much entitlement you've already had tied up in other houses. It's kind of a hard thing to explain without giving individual examples, I feel like. So if you have questions, I would definitely suggest that you do the strategy call, ask a lender. You can call the VA and ask them directly as well. You can check to see how much entitlement you've used by looking at your certificate of eligibility. It will show your loan that you currently have on there, the VA case number, as well as the actual dollar amount of entitlement that you've used.
Thank you so much. So I hope that answers some of the basic surface level questions about the VA loan. There's more to it. I see you. I know you're wanting to know more. I understand there's more to the VA loan. If you need more information, please book a strategy call or email me and we'll figure out how to answer any specific questions. I don't want to use too much more time talking about the VA loan product because we have more juice to squeeze out of this orange right now. So let's go ahead and get a little bit more into the latter half of that, comparing it, and also looking at IRRRLs, okay? So let me see here. Cassie, thank you, Cassie. Cassie went ahead and dropped the strategy call link in the chat if you're feeling like you need to know more about VA loan parameters and the rules around it. So let's go ahead and take a second to talk about how to sell a home, pay off the VA loan, and restore entitlement if you've used your entitlement. Ashley, can you walk us through that part of it?
Yep. So if you want, the VA considered it as once you purchase a home, you have entitlement on that property. So until you sell it, that entitlement is technically being held up. You can refinance the loan into a conventional loan that does free up in the entitlement. However, you can only do that one time. It's called a one-time restoration. After you have paid off the VA loan, you still own the property. You have a one-time to do the one-time restoration to get that entitlement back. That will let you purchase a new home. They will help you request the restoration.
Yeah. And that's one time, it's a one-time restoration on that property. It doesn't mean you cannot restore other properties in the future, right?
Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I've heard that if you have properties that you've gathered with the VA loan and you use one-time restoration, you have to sell all of your properties you own at that point in time. And then whenever you start to buy new properties, I believe you can do it again. But it's not something that you can use like multiple. If you have 3 houses, you can't do 2 one-time restorations at the same time.
Thanks, Ashley. I appreciate your insight on it. So if you're in a situation where you need to restore, we need to look into that deeper.
Yes.
Once you move out and turn that property into a rental, the rental income can actually help you qualify for the next VA loan. There are some rules around it. Can we walk through that from what the rules are and how the lenders view that?
So to use it as rental income will depend on how long you've moved out of the property, how long you've been renting it. So if it is your current primary residence and you are moving out of that home and turning it into an investment property, we actually don't have to have a lease on it. We just need to show a rent schedule, or we can pull basically a rental analysis to show what the rental amount will be. And we can use that to offset the cost of the home. So like your mortgage payment, you can offset it, but you can't count it as additional income. If you've had a rental property for 2 years and it's being reported on your tax returns, that's kind of a kicker, then we can count it as a net rental income. So it would actually show as income to help you with your DTI.
DTI is your debt to income ratio. So if you own a property, you're thinking about renting it out, and it's the first time that you've rented this property out before, the only thing that the income is going to count towards in the lending process is canceling that debt in your debt to income ratio, right? So everybody's tracking. However, now put 2 years in the chat. Once you've rented that property out for 2 years, it then not only cancels out, is it both, Ashley? It cancels out that debt, but also the profit counts as income?
Right.
Okay, so I said that correctly. Not only does it cancel out the debt, but the additional profit you're making and the income you're making on it counts as income, which can help you qualify for more funding, which is the process to building the PCS portfolio kind of one brick at a time. Thank you so much. And we talked about a lot about how your PCS portfolio can grow by keeping past homes as rentals. But here's the last part of the VA loan content that you need to wrap your head around. Not only can you keep those past rentals and grow, but you can also increase your profit margins on them over time. And the way that we do that is through refinancing or ERLing. If someone's holding on to a rental, Ashley, can an ERL help them?
Yes. So this is the one time that you can use a VA loan without it being your primary residence. So if you do an ERL, which is an interest rate reduction refinance loan, you can do it on an investment property. So if you've moved out, it's a rental, you have a high interest rate on it, the VA still allows you to do a streamlined refinance on it to get you that lower rate with a better payment. You have to go down at least 0.5% in interest rate in order to do a VA ERL. And the way that Trident, like Kimber was saying earlier, we try to set them up so that we pay the costs on the loan, and then you start your new escrow account and pay your prepaids again. So that way it really doesn't cost anything for you to do it. There's no reason not to ERL and get a lower payment.
Yep. Thank you so much. And I can attest to that. I'm ERLing right now. IRRRL. I'm doing an ERL. I'm coming down a whole point on my rate, and I'm very excited about it. I don't have any fees to pay to do that. And I'm not buying down my rate. I'm not paying an admin fee. I'm not paying any closing fees. Trident completely waives those for me, and I'm excited about that. What I'm going to say is if you're interested in seeing if an ERL is right for you, you can book a strategy call. We can help you look at your interest rate and see if that's an option for you right now. Sometimes it's not. We've talked to a few people in the military MLS community who it is not a right fit for. So that's okay either way. All right. So I want to thank you, Ashley, for coming on and giving us a little bit of the 411 on how to actually build a portfolio with the VA loan, how the VA loan kind of makes this possible for the military community. But I really want to bring on our investor guests who are doing this, who are military connected. Give our guests a warm welcome because here they come. First, I want to bring on Manny Reyna. He's a veteran, and he grew his PCS portfolio to 5 properties while being active duty. He also is a father to several children. He'll talk about his family soon. So if you've got kids, put the number of kids you have in the chat. Let's see how many kids you have, and let's see if you can beat Manny. Okay. So I think he's very inspirational, someone who's active duty, who has a lot of children, a lot of responsibilities, and a good heart, but also a curious brain for investing. Manny, would you please come on screen and tell us a little bit about your very first PCS and how you ended up buying instead of renting?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Manny. And so here's a little bit about my story. So I grew up in California before I joined the Air Force. And then honestly, in growing up, I never really thought I would own a home, just being honest about it. I joined the Air Force in 2002, and I ended up getting stationed at Hurlburt Field Air Force Base. Now, at Hurlburt Field, I lived on base. You know, I didn't know any better, and that's kind of how I grew up. And then in 2009 is when I got my first orders to Little Rock Air Force Base. And so we PCS to Little Rock, and we were looking around for a rental or, and we looked at base housing, and both of them were pretty terrible in the area. Base housing was like in shambles. So we decided to try to buy. And so in 2009, I used my VA loan for the first time, and I bought a foreclosure in Cabot, Arkansas for $135,000. So that was my first use of my VA loan. And it was nice. I mean,
and say that was right after the market crashed.
Yeah, it was right after the market crashed. It was pretty opportune for me on multiple things, because in 2008, they started this home buying credit to kind of spark people buying houses.
Mm-hmm.
And then the people that did it in 2008 kind of got screwed. Since I bought in 2009, I got the credit and I didn't have to pay it back. So it was kind of very, very opportune. End of the market crash, bought a foreclosure, got it dirt cheap. And the good thing about it was I was able to use my BAH to cover the mortgage and utilities. So it was pretty frugal at the time, and it was nice. It was a really nice house. Ended up being a really solid house. So I had 4 kids then. So affordability with that, was able to get something that suited the family pretty cheap, and it worked out really, really well.
Awesome. So 4 kids then in 2009, you were able to cover your BAH and your two listings, and your utilities.
Yeah.
And so we were able to land in an affordable property. I want to ask, later when you PCS'd, I think you said back to Florida, you ended up renting out that Arkansas house, right? Can you walk everybody here through, did you choose to self-manage or did you choose a property manager? And if so, if you chose a property manager, what people should be looking for, what benefits you got?
So at first we tried to sell the house, and the market still wasn't too great. You know, it had recovered pretty well in other parts of the country. Arkansas, I think, kind of lagged a little bit. It just wasn't moving as fast as we would have liked. And it gets pretty stressful during the PCS timeframe, like trying to box everything up, movers, keep the house clean. Are you going to move your stuff into a storage to make the house look nice so you can basically sell it? So it didn't move as fast as we wanted to. And so we started looking into renting it out. So we decided to interview some property managers to see how much it could rent out for, to compare it to what our mortgage would be. And so we interviewed a few of them. And the one that stood out the most, Bill, he was confident, and he had really good systems in place. And then he had a ton of experience. So he had, I think at the time, he said he was doing it for like 15 years. So great experience. Now, those are some really good factors when you're looking for a property manager. Make sure they're confident. You don't want somebody that doesn't seem confident what they're doing. The experience, and then systems in place, right? So Bill, at the time, he was managing about 100 properties. And even with managing 100 properties, just the way he spoke about how he would drive by each property at least once a month. And then when he explained his systems, very good systems for collecting rent. And then when it came to maintenance issues, he showed us how they go online. At the time, it was pretty nice, and how he managed deducting maintenance from the rent, and everything just seemed so streamlined, and he was just so easy to talk to. That's why we ended up choosing him. So that's a big lesson. So that I learned from Bill later on, but making sure you have really good systems in place. And if you're going to use a property manager, making sure they have really good systems in place, because it can be really tough and stressful when you're managing a property, from afar. So
I agree with that. So if you do choose a property manager, questions you need to be asking include things like, what are your rent payment systems? How often are you visiting the property? Do I get transaction reports when you visit my property? And how many other clients are you managing? And can you give me some referrals, some, recommendations, kind of references is the word I'm looking for. I almost got it. Let's try. References. Those are important. But I like that you found a good property manager in Bill, and that he was able to provide you strong systems, strong communication, and a lot of confidence, and that seemed to work out for you. So from there, Arkansas to Florida, you didn't stop at 1 and you didn't stop at 2. You built 5 properties while you were active duty. So what are some of the things that helped you scale? And why did you only use your VA loan benefit on some of the properties, not all of them?
So 2014, early 2014 is when I was PCSing back to Florida. And at that point, kind of the rent check started coming in, and I kind of realized like, hey, there's something here, I'm making a few $100s on a property that I'm not even living in, mailbox money as they call it. So I was like, there's something here. I need to start looking into it. So I started educating myself. I read a ton of books. I'd say I probably read all of them that are out there, but the big ones that really stuck out were Rich Dad, Poor Dad was one of the kind of cornerstones, along with Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Those kind of set me on a path. And then Millionaire Real Estate Investor, and then the Brandon Turner guides were crucial. All 3 of those, I read all 3 of those back when he was with Bigger Pockets, and they were very, very good. Yeah. So when we PCS back to Florida, I didn't have a lot of knowledge. I talked to, I want to say USA at the time, and I was like, I want to buy another house. They told me, yep, you can use your VA loan again. I was like, cool. I bought a new build that was being finished up right around the time we were getting back out to Florida. So that one was easy, VA loan, bought that one. But I still, like I said, once I started getting the rent checks, I started kind of getting the itch. I started reading, and I was like, I need to do this again. How am I going to do it again? So I searched and searched, and it took a little while. So in 2015 is when the next opportunity came in. But in 2014, before that opportunity is when I was able to meet Marty, the CEO or company owner of Trident, right? And it's funny because Ashley was one of the people that dealt with a lot of my properties. And so I met him, went down there, talked to him, and he's the one that introduced me to the no-cost Earl that you're kind of going through right now. When he introduced me to it and he was talking to me about it, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me, because I had just paid for a refinance back in Arkansas before I PCS'd. Yeah. And he's trying to sell me on something that was supposedly free. And so I didn't believe it, but I went through with it and it worked. So then 2015 came around, and my first opportunity to buy a home was a HUD foreclosure in Pensacola, Florida. I played around with the idea of using a VA loan, but it was going to require me to move to Pensacola, drive an hour to work, and that just didn't seem feasible for a year. And so I decided.
Why would it require him to move? Occupancy requirements on the VA loan, right, Manny?
That's correct, occupancy. So in order to use my VA loan, I would have had to live in it, which we were okay with doing, and we would suck it up, but we decided not to. So we started looking at creative ways to kind of get through that. So I ended up using conventional loan, 20% down. And that's where it got a little creative, because we ended up using my TSP, So for those that don't know, you can get a TSP loan on the money that you have sitting in your TSP. It's really nice. It doesn't count against your debt to income ratio, and they don't sell your assets. So your assets keep growing, stocks or whatever you have going on in there. It's literally just a loan for, I think I did the general purpose 5 years. And then they, through an allotment, they take money out for the next 5 years so you can pay it back. So then once we closed on it, I don't necessarily recommend this, but I ended up using credit cards to fund the repairs on the foreclosure. But if you are disciplined enough, you can do it. I did 0% APR credit cards that gave me like 18 months, 0%. And I funded the repairs through that. And then once I got the property rented out, I just used the rental income from that property to pay back the credit cards, right? Takes strong discipline. So, all right, there's that one. The next property, it took a few years to finally come. Oh, I forgot one part. Once I finished and once the property was rented out, I did a cash out refinance. So I had gained enough equity in the repairs to basically take my 20% back out of the property. So then I had a pool of cash sitting there for the next investment. Mm-hmm. And that investment didn't come till 2017. I ended up buying, it wasn't a HUD foreclosure, but it was a foreclosure. And this one was, the house was nice enough to where we were going to move into it. Played around once again using the VA loan. And I believe I could have, if I remember right, I just chose not to because I wanted to reserve it just in case I PCS'd, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because it was coming to be about that time where I could see the PCS kind of looming. Mm-hmm. So ended up doing a conventional 5% down primary residence. I used the money from that I got back for the 20% down and purchased that one 5% down. It comes with PMI, which kind of sucks. But after we closed on it, I was able to fix it up same way I did with the last one. And then I was able to refinance it. I had gained enough equity in the property to have 80% loan to value. So the PMI dropped off.
Nice.
So then I had conventional loan, not paying PMI, 20% equity in it, just in Florida, and it was my primary residence. So that's the one we lived in. And my final house came as an unexpected opportunity. So a friend of mine was retiring and he was trying to sell his house in Florida and he couldn't sell it. All the offers he was getting, he was going to have to come out of pocket like $15,000 because of repairs in order to sell the property. And so we talked a lot, tried to come up with different solutions of how I could buy it for cheaper without him having to pay. So at the end of the day, I ended up assuming that property from him. And it was a hefty process, but we got it done. And then, so that ended up being property number 5. And so that's the end of my property acquisition story.
And how many kids do you have at this point?
Oh, so 2018, I had 6 kids. And then I have 7 now. So had a retirement baby.
So can anybody beat that? I didn't see anyone in the chat who can beat that. But I think it's just encouraging to see the life that you've lived and the portfolio you've been able to accumulate. And it's really good to hear your story because I know you did most of this through Ashley's team at Trident, but I think it's really good for everybody here to hear that while the VA loan product today is your best immediate go-to, there may be circumstances where you do need to get creative with financing, and the Trident team is capable of helping with that. They've done some really creative things for Manny. We've talked with them in past educational classes where we've seen them talk about doing some really interesting things creatively on the financing side. So thank you for sharing that. I do want to caveat that with Manny said some things like saving my VA loan for my next PCS. I want to clarify that that was important during the time frame that he was actively making those purchases because the VA loan benefit was much smaller between 2015 and 2018, would you say? Much smaller. Since 2018, they've expanded it to effectively, we see people get up to 5 properties on the VA loan. So the benefit now is much bigger. So you may not necessarily find yourself in the position that Manny was in, trying to save the VA loan for later. Thank you, Manny. I really do love how each PCS opened the door for another opportunity for you, just in different ways. And thank you for sharing your perspective, because we don't always have all of the answers at first. And it's clear that you kind of navigated that. Like, I don't have the answer. I just know I want to do this, and I'm going to partner with the right experts to help me execute. So thank you for sharing how you started early and you were able to grow to 5 properties. So everybody give Manny some love in the chat, some hearts and stars if you appreciated his story and that he came on to share. Now I would like to bring on a dear friend and her husband. I want to introduce Francis and Lonnie. Francis and Lonnie are an active duty Navy family, and they became what we kind of like to call accidental landlords with their very first home. But since then, they've built a really strong portfolio of 3 single family homes plus a duplex that they also self-manage. So if you are interested in multi-unit properties, duplexes, put duplex in the chat. Let's see who here wants to learn about that. Francis and Lonnie, could you come off mute and say hello to everybody?
Hi, thanks for having us, Kimber.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us here.
We're pumped that you guys are here. They are still currently active duty. So if you are active duty, this is a really good segment of this class to listen to. Can you give us a snapshot of your portfolio today?
Yeah, so I like to say that we have 5 homes. So that's 3 single family homes, and then our duplex is counted as 2 homes. And we did some different things along the way. So we purchased our first one in 2012 using the FHA loan. And then 2014 is when we started on this trip of being landlords. Decided to join the Navy, left my job as a commercial banker. And at that point, we were like, do we keep it? Do we sell it? And from my time working at the bank, I learned that, hey, people with money have assets, and that includes real estate and businesses. So we decided to hold on to it. In 2016, we used the VA loan for the first time, bought a house in Virginia, and that was wild for us. When we came to closing, we actually got a check. So we got paid to buy a house, which was really cool. And then 2018, we used a commercial loan to buy a property in Indiana, where we're from.
Wow.
And that's actually on the same street as the one that we had originally lived in.
Okay, that's really cool. So what do we have here? Another example of another investor who's used multiple loan types. I also want to point out there's something unique about your approach to investing, right? You've chosen to self-manage. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. Why did you make that choice? And how are you making self-management of 3 single properties and part of your duplex happen well?
Yeah, so when Lonnie joined the Navy, we tried to find a property manager because we didn't know anything about being landlords. So unfortunately, none of the property managers had called us back or met our expectations. So we became accidental landlords just kind of out of necessity. We found a property management software that helped us with tenant applications and screening, as well as rent collection and maintenance tracking. And then for our Airbnb, when we purchased that with our VA loan in 2022, when we PCS to Rhode Island, we decided to self-manage because we live right next door. So in that case, it just made sense because we're right there and we could save ourselves that 20% management fee, because short-term rentals often have a higher management fee just because they're a little bit more hands-on. But now that we know how to run a successful Airbnb, we know what we need to look for in a property manager for when we PCS next spring. And so from our experience, I would say that having to self-manage kind of gave us better insights into what we need to look for in a property manager if we need one in the future.
I want to make sure everybody here, is acknowledging we've got a diverse approach between Francis and Lonnie. They have single family long-term rentals, and they're also running the Airbnb, which is the short-term rental. I'm going to throw in just kind of like a random question for you. Which is harder?
I'd say for me, The Airbnb is harder just because there's more things that we need to do, but it's way more enjoyable. Like I love all of the little gifts that we get to give to the guests. I love to talk to them, but it is definitely a lot more work up front.
Okay.
It's a lot more money too. So that always helps.
Right. Your profit margin's got to be higher.
Yes, way.
Awesome. So what does it look like for you, being an active duty spouse and an active duty family, balancing the active duty life with family life, with landlord life?
Yeah, so I really think it takes a team. And somebody mentioned before they were trying to get their family on board. And so definitely you both have to be on board to do this journey. Because if you're underway or you're deployed, you can't answer those phone calls and you need somebody else to manage the day-to-day operations. So, and then when Francis was traveling for work, then I'd be able to cover that.
Yeah. And I think self-managing saved us money, but that savings didn't come without some hard lessons learned. So we needed to still build systems. We needed to learn how to screen tenants appropriately from afar. And we needed to stay on top of all those tasks that come with just being a homeowner, being a landlord. And so you definitely need to be disciplined and organized when it comes to managing things out of state.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think it really helped that we have family in the area as well. So our long-term rentals are in Indiana, where our family's from. And so they can swing by the property, check on it. They can help us do showings, that sort of thing, or vet contractors or follow up on their work. So it really makes it a little bit calming for us to know that we can buy as many properties there as we need and family can help us out.
Awesome.
And so like part of it, when we moved out of Norfolk, we sold our house and we were able to, that was our VA loan that we got money at the closing table. And then when we walked away from that house, we were able to get about $40,000 or so. And we used that money to toss into a new investment in Indiana. So using that PCS process to our advantage again.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that. And in our last class, Military Home Buying 101, pretty much the entire theme of that class was how to get paid to buy a house, how to sit down and close on the home and walk away with a check. You know, I've seen checks as small as $400, as large as $1,500. It can happen and it's real. We do have the recording of that and it's available, I believe, on YouTube at this point, right, Cassie? Why don't we go ahead and put that in the chat and we'll let you guys take a look at that because Lonnie mentioned it. I'm not sure if Manny mentioned it, but it's definitely possible, especially in today's market. So Francis and Lonnie, I just want to say thank you for being real about what it looks like to balance military life and family life, but also the rental portfolio. And one of the things that I really like about your story is there's no perfect path and there's no perfectly duplicatable path per family. Like it's not a one size fits all situation. Sometimes you hold, sometimes you sell, sometimes you self-manage, sometimes you ask your family for help. Like the point is you are making the moves. You're making the PCS moves to work for your family and your situation. Thank you so much for everybody who's lighting it up. And we invite you to the strategy call. Basically in the strategy call, we talk about when is your next PCS? How much longer are you staying in the service? These things matter to how you use the VA loan benefit. How many times have you used the VA loan benefit before? How much entitlement do you have left, et cetera? We go pretty deep in under 30 minutes. And by the end of that call, you are walking away with a timeline of how to execute on not just your immediate next move, but if you are interested in continuing to exercise this over the future of your career or the future of the next 5 to 10 years, we kind of walk away with, here's your big picture concept game plan for what you have the ability to do with this benefit. So we hope to see you in the strategy call. And there's the link for you to book it. And remember, everybody who comes to our strategy calls, we do mail you a Stanley tumbler. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, and I also want to invite everyone, if you haven't already joined our Facebook group, we chat a lot in there, you'll see me in there. I'm going to drop the link to that in the chat here. And as long as no one wants to come on screen and ask questions, we'll just get started with the questions that we've been collecting through the event. So let's see here. We have Maria who asked, what if you have paid your house off? Do you still have to wait 2 years to count that as rental income? So I think maybe Ashley would be the one to speak to that one.
So yes, if you're trying to include it to offset your debt to income ratio, your taxes and insurance and any HOA dues will count against your DTI. So it's not just the mortgage payment itself, it's any debt you really have kind of associated with that property. So if you have it rented for 2 years, that's when you can use the actual income from the property. So you would have to show it on your tax return for 2 years to be able to really offset and show that income.
Okay. Awesome. And then David was asking about the EARL when we were talking about that. So you still have to find a lender willing to do the EARL, and then isn't there a closing fee with that? So maybe we could talk about how Trident does their EARLs. What does it mean to be a no cost EARL and how that works?
Sure. So without it overcomplicating it, an interest rate pays X amount of dollars. Marty and Tim decided that they want to make so much money on a loan. Whatever is over that amount of money that they want to make, we give back to you as a lender credit. So let's say, for an example, if the going rate is 5.625%, then you can go shop around with different investors. Everyone might be offering 5.625, but some people might be charging for that interest rate. Other people might just be giving you 5.625. The way that we try to do it is if 5.625 is paying enough overage from what Marty and Tim want to make, then we give that to you as a lender credit. So if you look at a closing disclosure, we typically try to pay blocks A, B, C, and E. So that's any type of lender fees, underwriting fees, credit report, tax service fees, and then any of the title cost and recording charges on that loan. So whenever we set them up, that's what we try to do. Some states are easier to do it than others, like Florida is very expensive to refinance. So it might be that you're not able to drop as much as you would normally be able to. But when you look at the savings per month that you're getting for not having to pay for it versus having to recoup the cost of the closing fees, it usually makes sense to take the no cost EARL versus paying costs in order to refinance. Does that make sense? It's kind of a lot.
Awesome. That makes sense. Thank you. And then also along the lines of the EARL, Lauren is asking if an EARL is always worth it when the rate is 0.5% less.
So sometimes it might depend on the loan amount, and it might depend what state you're in, and it may depend on when your taxes are due. So if you're dropping 0.5% and you're not paying anything to get that 0.5% lower, even if you're saving $50 a month, you're saving $50 a month and you didn't have to really pay or do anything to save that $50. To me, $50 is worth it. Some people want to save 500. If that's what you want to do, that's fine. You're just going to continue to pay the higher interest rate until the rates drop enough for you to do that. You can EARL every 210 days from your first payment date. So we have people that will do the no cost EARL today, and then essentially in 8 months, they do it again. And as the rates continue to drop, they keep doing EARLs to get the lower payments. If it's the time of the year, like in Florida right now, where taxes are due, we will pay the cost on the loan, but you're still responsible for paying your prepaid interest and starting your new escrow account. So your current account that gets paid in full whenever you refinance, that money comes back to you, but you do have to start the new account whenever we do the closing. In Florida, taxes are due, so that means you would be paying the full tax bill. So some people don't like the timing of it just because of the amount of money that they would have to bring to closing, or you can choose to roll that into the loan amount. It just kind of depends. Some people don't think they're going to be in the house that much longer, so they choose not to. It's just kind of situational. I think if you're saving money, to me, it's free money. Even though you are taking a slightly higher interest rate to get the free no-cost loan, it's still worth it, even at the 0.5%.
There's also the perk of, and this is not a reason to refinance, but it is a perk that you do get to skip 1 month's mortgage payment. So for us and our refinance, we do plan on listing our house next year. But if I refinance right now, we're going to save about $500 a month. And even if I roll the cost of my escrow into the loan, we'll still be saving like $375 a month, which is that's, if I want to put my daughter in dance, that's a dance class, that's something that I can do for her that I couldn't do before. And even knowing that we are selling the house next year, it's worth it to us.
Yeah. And Kipper, I don't know if they've mentioned it to you, you may want to turn off your automatic payment if you have one, just because of timing of your closing. So in some cases, that's what we can do too. We can time it up so that instead of you making, like in your particular scenario, since you are going through the process right now, instead of making your October payment, if you do end up having to bring cash to close, we can set it up so that the amount of your monthly payment is the cash that you bring to close. And then you're still going to skip your November payment.
Thanks. And so for me, that's just a great deal. I'm saving, we'll probably keep our house for another 6 to 8 months. So I'm saving, at least 300 times that number plus a full mortgage payment. And it just, makes sense to me.
Well, thank you, Ashley, for answering all those questions. The next question is actually going to be for Manny. So Lynn is asking how you found foreclosure homes.
Oh man, that's tough. So the easiest way was I had a realtor that I was working with, and I just told them, I was like, hey, put me on your automatic mailing list so that whenever a property meets X criteria, I think I was looking for 3-bed, 2-bath homes. Any new 3-bed, 2-bath home over 1,500 square feet goes to this email address. Any new foreclosure goes to this email address. Right. So I would always get these listings from them. And I knew when I was looking for foreclosure, that's how I ended up getting the 2017 house was through that listing. The HUD one was through a recommendation through a friend, one of the other LOs at Trident. He had bought a HUD foreclosure and he showed me the website and how to go about doing it. He told me it was pretty complicated, but either way, that's how I found the HUD foreclosure. Is I want to say every area has their own special way of listing those properties. But if you do a Google search for like HUD foreclosures, it should be like a something.com. I'll find it and I'll try to throw it in the chat for that one. But the actual foreclosures, I just told my realtor to send them to me. And the 2017 property, which was funny, it came out. I saw it in my inbox. I saw it and I was like, I want to go look at this property. She took me out to go look at it. And I was like, I like it. Let's submit an offer. I lost. And 30 days later, whoever had it under contract, they fell out. And then she called me right away and was like, hey, the property you put an offer in is back on the market. And I told her, put the same offer in. And I ended up winning it that time. So
that's awesome.
Persistence.
Yeah. Very good. Awesome. Thank you. And then this was also asked for you, but Francis and Lonnie, feel free to chime in here if you have anything you want to add. Nikki was asking, how much do you set aside for emergencies, your sinking fund for each property to cover things like the roof, turnover tasks, and times with no renters?
I will say that I was pretty bad about that. Kind of like what was brought up in here. I did a lot of winging it early on. So I did not have a solid emergency fund like fluid cash, aside from when I took my TS, the 20% back out. But I had plans. If anything happened, I had enough available credit to where I would use a credit card if I needed to. I didn't have to. I got lucky. That's not everybody's case. So that's just what I did. And luckily, it ended up working out for me. Just be careful, I do recommend having some sort of emergency fund. I definitely recommend once you start making money on your rental properties, once you pay off debts associated with the renovations or repairs, just start putting that money in another account. Let it sit, let it grow. Don't touch it, whatever the case may be. And that could be your, your emergency fund if you need to.
We like to have about $5,000 per property sitting there. So if anything major happens, it's probably going to happen at one property and not all of them. And that pile of money is accumulated from those properties. So they create the money, put it in the account, like Manny was saying, and we just let it sit there at that threshold before we take anything out.
Yeah, I'm going to comment too. So I have multiple properties as well. I currently have 3. And the way that I have mine set up is each property has its own account. So like it has its own checking account. Anything having to do with that property goes into and comes out of that account. So I can distinguish what I have where.
I like that. I recommend, we don't touch ours for our rentals. We don't use the money. I will add that we also move it to so this is an interesting way to think about it too, because different people take rent different ways. For all of our tenants that we've had, we've allowed them to have access to directly transfer within the same bank. Typically, we open an account within the same bank where our tenant banks, and we let them manually transfer, like turn on auto payment to send money to our account. And then we have auto payment pulling that money out and sending it to a high interest savings account. So it'll go to like a 4% savings account there. So not only are you, the mortgage is paid and then it's sent to what's left over is sent to the high interest savings account. So that's always great too, because you can earn cash on your profit as well.
Yeah, that's a great point. Awesome. And Lisa is asking, how do you detach yourself emotionally from a house that was your home?
So in our experience, the first home that we rented was the first home that we purchased. So, there is a lot of emotion in that. And we were lucky enough the first year that we were accidental landlords, we rented it to my sister. So we knew it was going to be taken care of. But then I think it's just, if a property means a lot to you, one of the things you can do is just make sure that you screen your tenants well. That process is not only going to save you a lot of grief in the end when you don't have to worry about a tenant ruining your home, but you can have that peace of mind that they're taking care of it and loving it just like you would if you were still there.
Awesome. Thank you. And then this is also for Francis and Lonnie. Maria wanted to ask what software you guys used for your property management.
Yeah, so we use Tenant Cloud. And so it makes it really easy. You can list your properties. They have listing syndication. So that's how you get it on all of the different, like the Zillow, the realtor.com, apartments.com, whatever. You can do tenant screening through them, rent collection, maintenance requests, all of that. It's all in one. And we've also tried another property software called Avail. I will say Avail is a little bit more beginner friendly. Tenant Cloud has a lot of features, so that can be overwhelming for somebody that is trying it for the first time, or maybe if you're not as tech savvy. Avail's a little bit more expensive, but it's a little bit more user friendly.
Yeah, awesome. All right. And Sabine is asking if retired people are also qualified for these opportunities. So is this just for active duty or retired as well?
Ashley or Manny, you guys want to take that?
Yeah, sure. Definitely for retired. Once you've done your time in the military, the min time to get a COE, then, you've got the VA benefit for your entire life. Like I can still use my VA benefit. I can go buy more houses if I wanted to, which I do plan to. But at this point in my life, I want to get my house on the water. That's my long-term goal, is have my own dock and be able to take my boat out whenever I want. Oh. But yes, ultimately, once you have your VA benefit, you use it the same as when you're on active duty, once you've done your minimal time. So reach out to your lender to make sure you have entitlement available, and then you can go ahead and press on.
I think a lot of times that's when we see the one-time restoration as well, is whenever people have bought multiple houses, and then they go and they're ready for their forever home now that they're about to retire. That's when they go in and they do their one-time restoration on one of their homes to get some of their entitlement back. So they're not having to put down as much of a down payment or any down payment for their final forever home.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. So we have a couple questions left. If anyone has any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Crystal is asking Manny if you could drop a list of those books that you recommended before.
We can drop it. I have a question. Is anyone here interested in doing a book club, a military MLS book club? Because it could be fun to have a group of people come together and start with that book list that Manny recommended. Yeah, okay, 3 thumbs up. That is enough for me to start a book club, okay? We'll do that in the Facebook group. So if you guys are not in the Facebook group, go ahead over there. Cassie, could you drop a link to the Facebook group?
Yeah.
And we'll put a little messenger chat together and we'll start with these books that Manny recommended.
Okay, so we have Jasmine saying she would rather not live in a property where they have tenants. Did you all wait until you PCS to find tenants for the home, or did you buy and already have the tenants living there?
I purchased the home and then put tenants in. So like the one with the PCS, the property. So my first house, the property manager took care of it once I PCS'd. When I moved into this house in 2017, I cleaned up the other house, listed it, and it rented, within 30 days. So, and then the Pensacola property, as soon as I was done making the repairs, I was advertising it and it rented right away. So got lucky.
And then for us, our single family home, so our first home we had moved out before we started renting it to people. And then the other 2 were purchased as investment properties. So we were never in those homes. But for our duplex in Rhode Island, we did have tenants on the Airbnb side. So when we purchased, we did have to wait for their lease to be over before we did the renovations on that side and turned it into the Airbnb.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay. Well, last call for questions. Oh, I think we have one more from Nikki asking, Francis, do you have anything you can share about what you wish you knew about the Airbnb?
Nikki, I could talk for hours about what I wish I knew. So I think one big thing, so our Airbnb is in Newport, Rhode Island, which is a higher end area. So to be successful, we knew that we needed to have quality furnishings and everything. And I think at first we underestimated what those renovation costs would be, would you say?
Yeah, so we went in budgeting $10 per square foot on furnishing, and we found out that $25 a square foot for furnishing was more realistic for our tastes and the quality of furniture we were looking for. We had heard a phrase, buy nice and not thrice. And that turns out to be true.
Yeah. And that really has paid off for us. So I would, if you're considering doing Airbnb, I would be mindful of how much really goes into renovations and furnishings, but know that the money that you put in there will pay off. You're able to charge more per night. You're able to have higher quality guests. And that's been really great. I think another thing is I didn't realize how needy some guests would be. So there really is a big management component. Like there are going to be guests that message you 50 times a day. Well, not really that many times, but they message you a lot while they're there, asking you, where's the oil? Or do you have this? Do you have that? So be prepared to kind of field those messages. But yeah, I think those are two.
But the numbers on it they're worth it. And to give you an example, August was our best month and we brought in $16,000 on half of our duplex. And so like if you do a good job, you can definitely make good money doing Airbnb.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you guys so much.
And those employment opportunities are made possible by our sister community. I know a lot of you come to the Military MLS and may not know about our sister community, but our sister community is VertForce. And that's where we do employment, classes like this, but with employers, talking about career continuity and generating income through your career. So thank you, Katie.
All right. If you are feeling inspired from our guest speakers, Manny, Francis, Lonnie, Ashley, and you're thinking, this is doable for me, throw me some love in the comments. I would love to hear what your perspective is and how you are reacting to this particular concept of the PCS portfolio. And if you want to join me for a strategy call, the invitation is open to you. It's a 30-minute call with our concierge team, typically me. I'm on those calls. And you will walk away not only with a free Stanley tumbler, because we love to love on you, but also with a timeline of exactly how you can make the VA loan benefit work for your family and exactly how you can start building the PCS portfolio for your family. Okay, this is my Military Spouse Lifestyle Show. Hit subscribe. Turn your notifications on. It helps us grow and it helps other military families find out about the resources that we're offering. I'll see you in the next one.